You're now live.
Okay, we are live. And Maria, can you walk us through this?
Sure.
The findings and intent. I don't think anyone touched, did they?
No. Nope. There was just the one technical typo, changing authority to board, but no. Other than that, I think you've all agreed on the findings and the intent. So that brings us to section 2, which is the creation of the Vermont Community Broadband Board. What's in here, the issues that you most recently talked about. So I've incorporated and have taken out highlighting for things that you've already reviewed and agreed to really narrow the focus on the few remaining things that were up for discussion. But just to confirm, eligible provider. So I am on page 7, definition 4. An eligible provider is a CUD, a small communications carrier, or an ISP working with a CUD, in short.
Okay. The small communications covers both cable and telecom.
Yep.
Okay.
That definition is the same as the Senate definition, with the exception that it was increased to 5 counties as opposed to 3.
Mm-hmm.
So that's, I haven't highlighted that. I think you've all agreed to that. So what is highlighted though, just to confirm, under definition 12, universal service plan at the bottom of page 8, I believe you agreed that a universal plan means a plan providing each unserved and underserved location in a CUD or in a municipality that was not part of a CUD prior to June 1st, 2021.
Okay,
Okay.
I think that works.
Could I just ask clarification? Because the CUDs are not set in stone. They're so what happens if somebody comes into a CUD in August?
Isn't that the governing?
So then they would be part of that CUD and the universal service plan for that CUD. They could, if they were planning to try to partner with an ISP, a small communications provider, you know, they could consider doing that and not join. But if they do then join, they would be part of the CUD universal service plan.
We're all getting to the same place. I guess I just wonder if it said or in a municipality if it's not part of a CUD. I guess I'm not clear why there's a date there.
I'm thinking this is when we were talking earlier about the concern about a municipality dropping out of a CUD. And this conforms with the VETA language in the back. I can't remember where that language is.
I'd just like to understand what we're effectively doing. We're all trying to do the same thing, I think.
I think the language relative to a date was the concern that setting a certain definition might cause a town currently in a CUD to drop out of a CUD, to essentially incentivize that unraveling that we were talking about earlier. So by essentially setting this, June 1st was a date picked, you know, if the governor ultimately signs this bill, that's roughly when it's going to be. As opposed to in August or I think we had last December in as a cutoff date originally.
So if a municipality, if a town drops out of a CUD, what happens to them?
So I think, I'm sorry, my brain's not working as quickly as 8 o'clock at night. So I think the concern was that a town currently in a CUD might decide to drop out of a CUD because they would get different treatment and qualify for a grant working with an ISP outside of the CUD. And the concern was that this would incentivize that behavior.
I'm not,
Okay, so this effectively sticks them.
No, you can still
not gonna
drop
have
out.
options other than a CUD is what you're after.
they can still drop out.
You can still drop out of a CUD. This doesn't lock anybody into a CUD.
You can,
But
right.
if they drop out for whatever reason, that precludes them from any grants.
No. I'm sorry. I was floating around the Vita section looking for the date back there.
There's too many little squares at the bottom of this page. Oh, okay.
Yeah, I'm going to start repeating myself here, but I think what this is meant to say is that by setting a date on by which a CUD is not part. Oh, geez, I'm sorry, I'm spinning in circles here on why we had that cutoff date.
So I think this is to, we have that cutoff date to not incentivize the dismantling of the CUDs.
Drop out and cut any deal they want.
Well, no, this says there's no grants if you drop out.
Drop out.
If you've
Okay.
been in a CUD, the only way you get grants is you stay in the CUD.
Stay in it. Okay. And working. And so you tell the ISP you got to work with them. Yeah. Okay.
That's right, Chris.
All right. I can live with that. If it doesn't work, we go back and try again. Okay, let's move on to community broadband, Maria.
Okay, so then no kind of changes. I think the fund is been reviewed. So just to confirm, I'm now looking at the board, which begins on page 10, the bottom of page 10. And I believe the way you left it is the board will have 5 members. And I think you agreed ultimately that the governor would select one of his appointees as to serve as the chair.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Then also with respect to the governance, I'm now on page 13. And what you see listed there, these are the powers of the board. And you had that new subdivision I, which the Senate conferees proposed, that allows the board to contract for comprehensive statewide fiber engineering design. There was a proposal to clarify and that the development of this design, the development of which shall not be required for or, and it should be in, or in any way impede the disbursement of grants under this chapter.
Okay, Senator Pearson.
Just not clear why we'd say it's why we have 4 seems a little funny. The development of which shall not be required or impede the disbursement of grants. I don't know. I don't care. It's late, but that's
It's the same question I asked Senator.
There, on top of line 14. N is IN.
Right.
Yeah, we got that.
Got that.
Just fix that. So
Yeah.
the design is not required for the disbursement. Like, you don't have to have a design in place to look at before you start dispersing funds.
Yeah, the trick is it's not required at all. So I wouldn't want to basically have it read as you don't need to do this before the first round,
Okay.
right? So I don't know.
Okay.
So how would it read, Senator Pearson? So the development of which shall not impede. So get out the
Shall not be required or impede the disbursement of grants under this chapter or something like that. I
Okay.
don't know if that works.
But
Our goal was to have it be clearly an option.
Right.
There would be a
agree with that.
legitimate expenditure of funds if they thought it was of value. It
Correct.
sounds like most things are compatible, but if things started to show up that weren't, and they figured they needed more study, they could do that.
So are you okay with Senator Pearson's language, the development of which shall not be
Randy?
required or impede the disbursement of grants under this chapter?
sounds good to me.
Okay,
Good to me.
I like it.
great. So then page 14, under the executive director, I believe you'd agreed that the initial executive director shall be appointed by the governor with the advice and consent of the Senate, and subsequent executive directors shall be hired by the board.
Yep.
Great. Okay. Then I'm on page 19, and this is under the list of policies and standards that the board shall develop. You wanted to add a new subdivision 6, allow an applicant to seek reconsideration of an adverse board decision. So these would be policies that the board would be developing, and those policies would allow an applicant to seek reconsideration of an adverse board decision.
Have to just figure out how to do it. They may end up just saying, go to Superior Court, but they need to give some thought.
They just need to specify what the process is, whether it's internal or external or whatever.
We normally call this rules.
Okay.
Okay.
Then scrolling just down to the bottom of that page under E, I think you wanted to, that what's highlighted, this is the not conflict with or undermine. Originally, it was the deployment plans, and you wanted to make it more specific to the universal service plan of an existing CUD. So that brings us, okay, so page 26, under section 7.
I'm sorry, but in an attempt to do this chronologically here, did we all get comfortable with this overbuild?
Fine.
Yeah, we're willing to go with that.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, that was my understanding. So that language is in there. Yep.
I just wanted to make sure. Thanks.
Okay. So under section 7 on page 26, this is the transfer of fiber optic assets. I think a number of you had asked about concerns about what state law is regarding the transfer of assets. Are there any concerns? And in the 10 minutes I had to become an expert on this subject, you know, where the real state requirements are, you know, more rigorous are when the state is transferring state assets to a private entity. In this instance, you're transferring state assets to a public entity, a municipality, which you do pretty not infrequently in the capital bill, that transfer of public assets from the state to a municipality for no charge for $1. The issue, though, that was brought to my attention is if the assets were purchased with bonded dollars in the capital bill, for example, and these are VTA assets initially, which may have been the case. I don't know what they were purchased with, general fund or bonded dollars. There may be federal requirements that attach to how that money or how those assets can be transferred. And so normally what's done in the capital bill is the state treasurer just reviews and approves the transfer. So that language that I've highlighted in gray would just require that any transfer is subject to review and approval by the state treasurer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
They may have been bought with federal dollars, but I don't think we did any
yeah.
bonding.
Well, that you know what that's right. Some of that middle mile fiber may have been.
Yeah.
But also if there are any conditions that attach to
Yep.
those dollars, it'll just be reviewed. And
Yeah, and that the commissioner wanted the lawyer on board because she felt she would need specialized legal counsel.
Yep.
If we were going to be transferring. So I think we're covered.
Okay.
But the treasurer and we've got us.
Okay.
Okay.
So then if at any point, I'm assuming you don't want to go through detail again, all of the sections you've reviewed. So I'm just focusing on things that were just outstanding in terms of final approval. So I'm scrolling through the connectivity initiative in 7C. So again, this program now would, for the most part, remain the same. The 25.3 threshold available to any service provider. There's about $2 million that the commissioner can award in grants immediately. The one substantive change, and I think you've all agreed to this, is on page 30. Funding shall be available for capital improvements only, not for operating and maintenance expenses, and shall be available only for projects that the department determines do not conflict with or undermine the deployment plans of CUDs. Then
Okay,
section, yep.
Maria, you just said a dollar amount. What did you say it was you think is available?
I thought I had heard somewhere in the neighborhood, I thought it was 1 million, maybe $2 million at this point.
That's my memory. I just wanted to make sure that the $20 million that we also authorized doesn't flow through here. Because
No.
that's not where I'm coming from anyway.
Okay, no, that money would not go here. This section of law is not in the chapter that's funded through the Vermont Community Universal Service Fund or
Right.
Vermont Community Broadband Fund.
Thank you.
So then section 7D is where you then make the other substantive amendments for the connectivity initiative. 1, it's administered by the board. 2, you increase the speed requirements to 100 symmetrical. You look at more universal service plans or universal coverage plans. All of that would take place January 1st.
When we transfer
When you
over
transfer.
to the board. Okay.
Yep. So no changes to the advisory board. The VITA lending program starts on bottom of page 39. It's section 9.
Maria, just
Yes.
back to the bottom of page 31.
Okay.
Connectivity initiative, broadband authority is still there. And it should
Okay.
read board.
Okay.
We're going to find that forever, I think.
Thank you. Okay, so just the bottom of page 31. Oh, okay,
titling.
subject heading.
Mhm.
Reader assistance. Okay.
Yep.
Great.
You should probably do a word search before you finalize this, because I don't think the word would be used in any other sentence.
You're right. I will
Not
do
with a
that.
capital letter, at least.
Right.
You're right. Good idea. Okay.
Okay. So we're up to 36 or 37, did you say?
So the Vita loan program starts at the bottom of page 39. I just went through the Connectivity Advisory Board. I think haven't made any proposed changes
Yeah.
there. So,
No, they're just gonna stay.
so section 9, the only couple of things on page 41. So first at the bottom, you'll see the date, and I believe that's what Representative Briglin was referring to earlier. This is the eligibility for borrowers under VITA's loan program. So just again, clarifying that ISP is working with municipalities that were not part of a CUD prior to June 1st.
There is authority in here, but that's Vita, right?
Yes. Yes.
They are an authority.
But the other change, which we haven't spoken about at the top of page 41, subdivision B, eligible borrowers, it had said include, and under the original program, essentially any entity was eligible to apply for a loan through Vita for broadband. Under that House proposal, and I'll let the House conferees speak to this, eligible borrowers were limited to, and you'll see Roman numeral 1, 2, and 3, CUDs, ISPs working with CUDs, and ISPs working with municipalities. The word include, though, as you know, under Vermont law means include but not limited to, which means that list would just be illustrative and not exhaustive, which I don't think was ever the intent. And I confirmed that with the House conferees. So the proposal here is to replace the word include with are. Does that make sense?
Senator Pearson.
I think it does make sense, but want to be sure that your aim is to make it a different pool of people than we would be granting to, slightly different, because we're back to your construct with a partnering municipality in some way.
Although we'd be happy to open up the eligibility for providers again, but I'm joking. I'm joking.
Like, you know,
This one, I just was curious.
Yeah.
I have a feeling that the grants will be gone through first, then there will probably be Vita borrowing, and then maybe they'll be ready to go to the bond bank. Unless they need to do Vita borrowing because there isn't enough grant money available to finish what we hope is a really huge project. So, okay.
So that's actually, those are the only kind of final outstanding proposals that I had highlighted. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to confirm or review.
I don't think on the House side.
No, I'm just, we got the transmission line right of way, we got that fixed. Okay. That was one I knew. Okay. We used to stand up and shake hands, but we can't do that. I think we're agreed, but normally we would have a clean copy and we would do this. And I think let's see.
Is there a new protocol now that we're doing this via Zoom?
Yeah, Faith sent it out. We have to send an email. And that I'm thinking maybe if we could do this tomorrow morning, the House has to do it first though, right? Is that the protocol?
I don't know if
Do what first?
you have to
Vote
sign
to
it.
accept.
So I think what will happen is I'll have a clean draft for you, within a matter of minutes, which I will just email as soon as it's ready,
Okay,
taking out all the highlighting and the few edits that you pointed out. So I will email that final copy to you with instructions. And basically what you will then do is forward the email, because you want to have the report attached to your email, to the House Clerk's office, to the Senate Secretary's office. I'll give you their addresses. And then basically, and I'll put instructions in the body of the email I send to you.
yeah, Faith
You'll
sent
say,
them to us.
yeah, that I confirm I will sign this report or not, whatever your choice is. And then you send that, and that constitutes your signature, essentially, or lack thereof, whatever your decision is.
Okay, here it
So, but
is. It came in at 6:53 a.m. Faith, that's too early. Today, but it is the instructions for the Committee of Conference, and if Faith has it, I'm sure Matt does. But, okay, I guess what I'm getting a little panicky about is going through all of this, but presenting it to the Senate on, when they're used to, we seated on this, we seated on that, mostly we fine tuned. And I think it'll just take me a little while to go through all 41 pages and figure out. where
And
we
I think you
finally
can
ended
start
up
with,
being.
I think the thing you can start with is that we worked off the Senate bill. So,
Yes. And basically, other than switching who appointed and some technical changes, we started out in pretty much the same place, and we just made some technical corrections. There was no major disagreement in principle or philosophy. It was how it worked out. Okay. So
I would be
Marie,
happy to do, you have a section by section, I can do a third column that just kind of summarizes the
That would be
final
beautiful.
conference committee.
that would be wonderful.
Okay.
I'm with you, Anne.
I don't know we're on the floor at 10 tomorrow, and I'd like to give Maria a night's sleep. But
Well, it would go on, I can't remember which chamber first, but it goes on notice.
well, they'll move it right off though.
We
I think
can
the
take
speaker's gonna
it, we
move
can
this.
vote to take it off the notice calendar immediately.
Yeah, I think that'll
I
happen
think it
quickly.
goes to the House first, right? It was a House bill. So the Senate chairs the Committee of Conference, but check on it. The clerk will know. But I think it goes to the House first.
Can I just ask,
Sounds right.
there actually are people that watch us, lucky them. Could we signal in some way our agreement? That
Do we put our hand up to the screen?
Yeah.
Yes, fingerprints.
Put it up half at least.
Okay,
half a signature there, Senator Brock.
half a signature.
All right, thank you.
Okay.
And
Okay,
then
so
Maria, when you send this to us tonight, there'll be instructions in it. I don't think the House
Yes.
conferee's got instructions, so that would be helpful.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
so I can take my iPad and I can get down and have dinner and read a book. And when it comes in, I can send it to John Bloomer, who I'm sure is sitting in his office waiting for it.
I just want to note that I had to miss the last 4 minutes of Wheel of Fortune to do this.
The sacrifices we make. I think we can go off live stream.